Good evening. It's Wednesday, May 12th, and I'm Virginia Amos. Tonight we are continuing our 9-part series of one-on-one interviews with the candidates for City Council and the mayoral race who will be running in the June Democratic primary. Now, the Zebra newspaper and ZTV do not endorse any candidate, but offer this as a public service. We'll go for about 30 minutes. We are asking each candidate the same set of questions, maybe not in the same order, but the same set of questions. And at the end, if we have questions from our viewing audience, we will try and fit those in. Now, we don't have our intern Eli here tonight, who's been my timekeeper. So in case you're interested, I have a 3-minute egg timer with me. And this is just
keep us on track.
It is. It's just to keep us on track. So, don't be distracted by it. But it's handy. It's handy. So tonight, our guest is Patrick Moran. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you, Virginia.
It's good to have you here.
I appreciate it very much.
Good. We're going to get into some serious topics, so I like to kind of start off by doing kind of some quick fire questions that may let people know a little bit more about you.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay. So, how long have you lived in Alexandria?
No, well, I was born here.
Okay.
Yep, born on Seminary Road, and then grew up here. Yeah, my parents separated. I went down in 2000 and went to high school down in St. Mary's County, down in Southern Maryland. And
I know St. Mary's County.
Beautiful. And then I would come up here on the weekends and spend time with my father. So we'd go all over Northern Virginia, all over Alexandria, and went to college and spent some time in New Haven, and then came back after finishing up. So
great.
I was on in Old Town for just about all of that. So off at Abingdon, and then and now we live on in the Parker Gray neighborhood of Old Town.
Great. What 3 words best describe you?
Dad, small business owner. I guess that's 3 right there.
That's all right.
But and then I'm a sustainability guy. I'm an environmentalist. Okay. I live and breathe it. That's how I think about the world and how I see our interaction with it. So if you get thrown 4 in there, it'd be a husband. Try to be a damn good one.
What is something that most people don't know about you?
Well, I don't talk about football anymore, but I used to be pretty darn into it and played football throughout high school. And actually that was one of the big catalysts for going down to Southern Maryland, was because I was too darn heavy to play in the league in Alexandria. I was 20 pounds over, and my mom wouldn't want to tell me to go on a diet, so instead.
So they took you to Southern Maryland, where they like them big.
Well,
right?
that's what they told me, at least. So that was an opportunity to develop some grit, and played all through college. Okay. And that ended with a little stint with the rookie camp with the Ravens. Humbling. Quickly realized that was the end of the road. But
I'm sure. Okay. All right. And what is your guilty food pleasure?
Ooh, well, late night, anything dark chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell myself that the antioxidants in dark chocolate make it okay.
Oh, I agree with you completely. They're really valuable. They're valuable.
That's what I tell myself. I think after you're going your 6th or 7th, cube, maybe you start to diminishing returns. But.
So I've asked everybody this, and is there one dominant issue or situation that compelled you to throw your hat in the ring?
Yeah. I mean, one's more on the personal side. One's, I kind of think about this as one's my heart and one's my head. On my heart, it was my mom, and we spent about 3 months with her this past fall during the pandemic. She had pancreatic cancer, so had a chance to spend quite a bit of time with her and ensure that she had time with her granddaughter, namesake Mariella, and she told me I needed to look at it. She wanted me to take it seriously in terms of public service and understand the great benefit and community good that could be had. So in terms of kind of an underlying reason as to why to look at, we've got a business, we've got family, why amidst all of this look for an opportunity to serve additionally? That was the catalyst in terms of problems that the city's facing that really needed, and I felt like I could constructively contribute and ultimately achieve solutions, was flooding. That's what we do in our business. We help property owners basically mitigate the damages and the risks, making their properties more resilient with stormwater management solutions, conservation landscaping, all of these things that on a macro scale with the community and with the city, it's really exciting opportunities to maximize our ecological benefit, position ourselves to be resilient against climate change. But I've been doing it on a small scale. And when I look at some of the investments that we've been making as tax dollars and looking at the conversations that are being had around this, I'm not satisfied. I think that they could be a lot better. I'd look forward to the opportunity to contribute constructively on those.
Okay. So let's just get it out there. You come from a family where public service was
Legacy of service, I like to say.
Legacy of service.
Yeah.
Your dad was our mayor and then went on to serve in Congress.
Yep. He sure was. And in 1971, he moved to Delray. And he came in, he couldn't get a mortgage. They told him it was redlined, and he went to 17 banks, and none of them would give him, would approve him for a mortgage. So went to the Justice Department and got that changed. And that ultimately, he was involved with the United Way, ran for council, and then found himself as mayor. So vice mayor and then mayor. So, there was a storied history there, and that was before he ran for Congress, and that was me. He was elected in 90. I was born in 89. So, there was.
So you grew up with it.
I sure did.
Yeah.
I sure did, and it was core to our experience. I mean, it was when I talked to going with him to places all over Northern Virginia, Alexandria was always home.
Right.
Right. It was nice, coming over here to the studio, and I grew up riding my bike down here. We lived on West Fielder Terrace, and I'd get on, and we'd go down the hill, and that would get the adrenaline flowing, and then I'd quickly get the hamstrings flowing when I had to make my way back up. But yeah, this is home. Understanding that whenever there was issues that the community was facing, it was never enough to just cite it, note it, complain about it. Everything always elicited action.
Okay.
It was always a matter of, hey, what can we do? Who can we talk to? How can we ultimately make
so
some
all
positive
politics
impact?
Is local.
That's what they say, right? That's what I feel. I rarely say that, but that's the truth of it. That's the truth of it. Yeah, and all politics is service too, and that's a big part of this. And it's increasingly politics is a blood sport, which is an unfortunate reality that I don't like to admit, and I try to shed positive lights and everything. But ultimately, we've got issues as a community that we need to confront. We've got huge opportunities as a community that we have to ensure that we're positioned for our future generations. There's still inequities that we face as a community that have lingered for far, far too long. We have an opportunity now as a society both to lead in Alexandria. We've got the leadership that wants to do it. We've got the intent. We've got a super well-educated community that understands the opportunity we have, but we got to do it. Okay. We've got to do it. So, yeah, that's all politics for me.
My second question is, and you certainly touched on it in your first answer, but we can go a little bit more in depth. City got a bundle of money in March, almost $60 million from the American Rescue Plan. And I think much to everyone's delight, that money can be used for other things other than specific COVID relief, including water, sewer, and broadband.
Yep.
And so the question so far that everybody has responded to positively is, should we take a portion of that money and apply it to help flooding relief, the flooding that has plagued Alexandria in 2019, 2020 does not seem to be going away.
Right.
And add that to the capital projects.
Well, I think we absolutely have to. Yeah, we have to. There's a lot of things that we need to spend money on. A lot of things. And this is an opportunity. And, fortunately, our federal partners in this were pretty liberal in the language that they provided so that we could mitigate some solutions. And Alexandria isn't unique in facing these. I mean, these storms are coming with increasing ferocity and causing an enormous amount of property damage. You see headlines on that whenever these same storms come through. So it makes sense that they give them the flexibility. We need to address spot fixes. There's a lot of things that we need to do in our community. Broadband is also a huge priority. I mean, that so often we hear about our need to expand our commercial tax base. Vacant commercial buildings, the second floor. Kind of second floor commercial, what can we do with it? And I tell you, with dependable internet access, all that will get put to use.
Yeah.
But right now it's not. And it's because we don't have the infrastructure the way that we need it to it. The other thing that I feel that we desperately need to address is school capacity. Have to do that. Our kids shouldn't be home. We should be back in school 5 days a week. And, but you understand, I try to empathize with why we're not. And you look at contact tracing, you look at density, you look at how can all the desks fit together. And the reality is that there's capacity issues. With modular technologies, these are things that we can act on fast. I think we should, and even if it's a matter of utilizing some of those funds, $60 million will go pretty fast, but utilizing some of those funds to free up some money so that we can expedite that, not solve the problems for students who are going to be in school 10 years from now, 5 years from now, but understanding that this is their shot. This is when they're in school. This is ultimately the education that they're gaining is going to position them. And nobody's putting off their 18th birthday.
No, it comes around whether you want it to or not.
Absolutely.
It's like your 50th. And
we have to ensure that they're best suited to be financially self-reliant, empowered to get great jobs, and also with the information and the tools so that they can go into business for themselves. That's your best insurance policy for income generation. So those are things that I'm passionate about, and I look forward to any opportunity we can to better position our community.
So how would you, in addition to money and kind of the specific things that we need to do around controlling stormwater, which is, obviously the drainage and clearing things out. What, in your experience as somebody who does this with homeowners specifically, what are the other things that we could be doing, say around our green spaces?
Oh, well, we need to get backhoe. We need to start digging. We need to make retention ponds. These are things that don't cost millions of dollars. They don't. And when I see, when I watch these hearings, and when when staff gives recommendations, and they're doing so in good faith, but oftentimes you throw out massive numbers at it. And as a guy that, I'm wearing a jacket right now, but up until this, I'm out there behind the equipment, and there are opportunities to make very legitimate, very effective solutions.
Okay.
May not be the permanent solution. Don't make up for inadequate infrastructure.
Right.
Don't make up for damaged infrastructure that's shifted over time. But in terms of getting water where we can't have it, to getting water where it's not going to cause damage, those are things that we can do with grading, with huge bioretention. I mean, look at over at Mount Vernon. There's an opportunity to alleviate what's going on Hume. There's a lot of things that happen. I mean, industrial pumps. These are quick fixes that can act fast. Having teams on site that are ready to anticipate, knowing that the storms are coming. We know the storms are coming. And these are not CIP projects. These are responding in kind with the emergency. This is along the same token that that we're ready to distribute sandbags, but these are actions that are going to get water away from where it's going to cause an enormous amount of damage, ultimately in places where that it can dissipate. And we can look holistically at creating solutions in our community and our city. That's just one example in Delray. Obviously there's been an enormous amount of community activity around that and leadership around that, which has just been fabulous. But with Drain LX and what Katie Waynick is doing, but these don't have to just be CIP projects, and they don't have to just be the city offering backflow preventer solutions and sign indemnification clauses. These are things that we can understand and act constructively, act quickly, and mitigate what they're running into. I think we owe it to our community. We owe it to our residents.
That's nice to hear, because I think that infrastructure has certainly been the buzzword, recently. To me, infrastructure is a lot like home maintenance.
Yeah.
And you can put it off and you can put it off, but eventually it's just going to bite you.
Yes.
And so the idea of doing something, to being able to respond kind of on a dime to mitigate it, but then at the same time to be doing something for the long term makes a lot of sense.
Well, we're doing the thing for the long term. At least there are commitments there. I mean, a 10-year CIP plan, it's going to be better informed by the ad hoc flood committee advisory group that's set up, and that's going to be good. We've got great people that have been appointed to that are passionate about this issue, that are experiencing it. But we need to be prepared to act now. We need to be prepared if when the clouds roll in, what are we going to do? And waving a CIP plan doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. And we've got the resources.
Okay.
We can act better and be more responsive, in my opinion.
Okay. Everyone, how can you go anywhere without talking about Seminary Road? I don't know. There was something on the news about it today. So the way I look at this is that, it's done. It happened. So there are really three options going forward. One is to completely reverse it. The other is to leave it as it is. And the third one is to perhaps
Fix it.
modify.
Yeah.
Modify.
Okay.
So of those three, what strikes you as being the most realistic?
Oh, modify.
Okay.
No doubt. I don't like rework in my business. I don't like it. It's cost. It's just cost.
Yeah.
It's waste. I don't like it. So any opportunity I have to avoid rework, I'm going to do. But there's no doubt that there are upsides with having bike lanes. There have been residential roads that were cut off. Seminary Road was an arterial throughway and kind of an expressway that shot you right up the middle of the city. I was born on it. I understand it. But at the same time, what was presented, the nature of it, the discussion, the fact that the traffic and parking board recommendation wasn't heard, and that an alternative that wasn't presented or recommended wasn't brought forward to council. The whole thing was a mess. And now I look at it, and you see the pedestrian islands that are in front of the post office. You look at it in front of Temple Bethel, and those are obstructions that don't need to be there. You go farther down, and you see where you've got the same sort of pedestrian protections that are in place that can be transgressed for emergency vehicles.
Right.
There are ways there. The recommendations for hawk protections for crosswalks, all of these things that could happen that could be better. I think first thing I would do is grab a jackhammer and demo those curbs. The second thing, and I wish that this was done initially, but to be proactive in managing where cut-through traffic was going to happen. This was an installation that ultimately drove enormous amount of traffic into Jordan and Howard, and then Fort Williams Parkway, and it's not fair to do that without far more communication and collaboration. I understand the nature of it. I understand that there were agreements that were signed in 2017. There was community feedback to engage in complete streets in 2017 and through the course of those years. But the whole nature of this, I don't like. It needs to be fixed. And I think, frankly, with better and stronger civic associations, we can ensure that these types of decisions aren't made again in the future. And that we learn
This
from them.
has always been an issue for me. Talking about cut-through traffic.
Yeah.
I live on Howell, which it's a thoroughfare. It's a traffic thoroughfare because we have a stoplight at Route 1. And so people can come down from Russell Road. You've got a stoplight at Mount Vernon. You go to Route 1, you've got a stoplight, and you can either turn or you can go straight across.
Mm-hmm.
Bellefonte doesn't have that. Windsor doesn't have that. But Howell does. And so I remember asking this at a meeting one time, talking about traffic, and I said, you make plans 10 years in advance. Because they were talking about the bike lanes at Potomac Yard and how at the time they did it, the curb cuts were all the rage. Well, now they're not the rage and nobody wants them. So how do you make plans and sign off on them 10 years before the project's ever completed? And then it's like,
There's no doubt it's tough.
this wasn't such a great idea.
There's no doubt it's tough. And there's no doubt that factored into the decision of the votes that voted for this type of, for Seminary Road and others like it. You have to make investments that anticipate need. And we are, being multimodal is inclusive by nature. It ensures that that everybody's able to get around, and especially with other policies that we have in place, where folks, if you live within a mile of the school, you're not getting on the bus.
Yeah.
You got to walk. So
Yeah.
safety is absolutely critical as part of this, and ensuring that we're protecting and ensuring that our roads are safe, our residential roads are safe. I also think that there's an opportunity to generate revenue here. I think that better enforcing, cut through traffic and avoiding it. I mean, I live on Route 1. I know traffic. Right behind me on Fayette, there's a big old sign that says, no cut through traffic from 4 to 6 p.m.
Right.
And sometimes there's a police officer that's enforcing it. Now, I don't think that makes sense for a police officer to enforce it, but I tell you, if we put up a camera that flagged and ticketed anybody that was coming through, that could be set up automatically, not only would that pay for itself quickly, not only is that a sustainable technology-driven solution, but I think it's something that we can replicate and provide to other parts of our city that can protect this and also start to address this. BFAC, our Budget and Fiscal Affairs Advisory Committee for the city, has recommended that we look at ways of doing sort of, congestion tolling and figuring out ways to avoid this. I think, using automatic solutions that can ticket and generate revenue on especially out-of-state traffic that's cutting through Alexandria sounds like a pretty darn good idea to me. I don't know about you, but it sounds like a good idea to me.
I kind of envision more of just deputizing someone to stand out there and collect tolls. If you want to, go through at a certain time of day,
I love volunteers.
You've got to pay a toll.
If we could get, and there are 100% folks that would be willing to do that. So if that can meet that same sustainable solution, then I'm all for it. I truly am. I mean, our pandemic has been an opportunity. Obviously a tragedy,
Right.
but an opportunity to see the great good and great impact that can be had with
That's
volunteers.
how I feel about the trucks on Howell Avenue. If we had somebody out there who could ticket those trucks.
I remember back in Corey Kelly, I was the traffic. We had the badge.
Yes.
And,
I was at patrol, safety
patrol.
patrol.
Is that what it's
yes.
called? The safety patrol.
Yeah.
My memory isn't what it used to be, but or at least I've shed the exact name of that. But the yellow belt.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll make a note of that.
Okay, so we're going to have a citizens, core of traffic people, adults.
That's your
adults.
idea.
Okay,
I think
that's
I'm
my
cameras,
idea.
but I think that's a good.
All right.
Worth looking into.
I may have to float that a couple more nights here and see how many more.
Well, you've got some one-on-one time with the decision makers.
I do. I'm going to bring that up now. So, and maybe you see this a little bit differently, having grown up with, watching your dad at work. But how do you see your role on city council? And how do you see, because we don't have a ward system,
Right.
and effectively city council members represent the entire city.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see your role on council and asking for feedback? Where are you going to get that? How are you going to listen?
Mm-hmm. Part of my goal in this, and going back to a sustainable solution, how can we do things? Process improvements. It's core to, frankly, how our business has been able to grow the way it has. But we need to empower our civic associations and ensure that they're extremely inclusive, armed with the data and able to play a far greater role in our strategic planning process. I'm a project manager professional, PMP.
Mm-hmm.
Our city has adopted the Project Management Institute methodology for a lot of the planning processes. That's what we hear when it's talking about small area plans and talking about master plans and strategic plans. On council, it's your responsibility to steer that. I mean, you're operating the city as a municipal corporation. You're the board of directors. The city manager is a CEO. That's written into the code. He's basically the chief executive officer of the city and manages a staff. So understanding that the responsibilities akin with being a board, accountability being a core part of that, ensuring that there's transparency, and also trusting in the staff and the expertise. But at the same time, when something doesn't sound right, you got to push back on it. You have to push back on it. At that, there's an incumbent that you have an expertise in the type of issues. I think that, my concern with the ward system is that it trades one set of problems for another. But I think ultimately we need to be deliberate in understanding that skills, scopes of expertise are important into the decision-making process, into voting in terms of the conversations that are had, but then also accountability on staff to ensure that our staff is operating as efficiently, as effectively on behalf of the city. I see the greatest currency that our city offers is, beyond prosperity, it's quality of life. It's quality of life. Maximizing quality of life for all Alexandrians is number one. And we can do that. And if we utilize that as our primary KPI, that key performance index, right, or indicator, ensuring that everybody's happy, everybody's able to self-actualize, everybody's able to pick and pursue and ultimately achieve their goals. That's a truly excellent community, and I think we have the opportunity to do it. I think for a lot of people, we're doing that. I think that that we are a community that embraces that. But not for everybody, and we have to ensure that we close those gaps.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the local civic associations and have been involved with DRCA and really see it as an opportunity. It's where a lot of people get their first taste of civic engagement, and the ability to have city officials come, to have planning officials come and talk through things. I think is really important. And I would really, I hope that attention is paid to the civic associations and what they can offer. And the associations themselves need to, it's tough to get people.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's busy, but ways to include as many neighbors as possible in the discussion.
It's critical. I'd love to see the city offer grants to support civic associations. Good governance, bookkeeping, all of these things that can ensure that our citizen associations that are representing everybody and that are inclusive of everybody. Yeah. Because that's a core component, and that's unfortunately a dynamic that seems to have been lost, especially in the decision-making process, because too often you hear of leadership of citizen associations coming forward. I represent 2,000 homes. And then you have somebody else that and we take this stance, and you have somebody else that comes forward and says, yeah, I'm in that civic association, I don't go, or I'm a dues paying and I don't agree. Yeah. And when the decision in the quantitative measure, which right now is basically, testifying how many for and how many against, is broken down into who's showing up at council, then it doesn't give due attention, respect to our civic associations. Now there's civic engagement opportunities that the city takes on, but I think that with data-driven opportunities, I think with expectations that ultimately the civic associations are responsible for doing certain things like maximizing quality of life. And I would love to see a new, beyond doubling our membership on our boards and commissions, but I'd love to see a new neighborhood board and commission that was responsible for protecting, ensuring, and maximizing quality of life for our communities. Coordinating directly with civic associations to do that. Okay. That's the type of thing that makes a difference. It makes a difference quickly. It's not just an opportunity to leverage the expertise. We're the fifth most educated community in the country, I think was the last numbers that came forward. I'd like to make the case that we're number one, but but at the same time, that's a huge resource that we are blessed to have, and many communities don't have that. They don't. And the fact that we have so many passionate individuals that want to get engaged, and passionate organizations led by passionate leaders that want to be involved, that's an asset. We have to ensure that we have leadership that brings everybody to the table, and is having the constructive discussions that ultimately create win-win scenarios.
Okay. All right. We are quickly running out of time.
Oh, man.
But we have a couple of questions here. I'm going to ask you one quick question. Basically, tell me yes or no. Do you support or not support co-housing on school grounds?
I'd only entertain it ever if it was teacher dedicated.
Okay. That's easy. All right. So...
And not on I don't see a need on elementary schools. I don't see the room on elementary schools, but I look at, their space back behind TC and otherwhere. I think that Alexandria High School I think that there's opportunities. ACPS owns property. Virginia is 50th out of 50 in teacher pay. 50th out of 50 in teacher pay. That is awful. And to expect that our students are going to receive a world-class education and have underpaid teachers is just silly. That's not ultimately the result we're going to get. We have to change that, and I'd be willing to look at anything and everything to do that.
Okay. What about, because we really are short, what about property damage that's already occurred to homeowners due to failing infrastructure?
I think it's a problem. I think it's something that the city needs to understand, that that work with home ownership, or I'm sorry, home insurance, and get these claims resolved. But as somebody that, speaking of my personal experience, and we have, we've got a crawl space. If we had a basement, it would flood all the time. But, when water's pooling up behind because we've got an alley that overflows, and even though I've tried to create a retention basin in our backyard, the water floods.
It's still there. Yeah.
It's still there. Now, that's a different issue than what a lot of folks are facing in terms of sanitary sewer backup. That is a whole nother problem. We need to ensure that there's accessibility there. I'd like to overhaul our program for doing that. $3,000 is not always enough. I think that's something that we can. I think something that we can prioritize and do a lot more, matching and expediting that process so that we can proactively engage. The city needs to do more to proactively engage, as opposed to having these great programs that we expect people to come and take advantage of. I'd like us to go out there. Yeah.
Okay, we are rapidly
we
running out of time, and I apologize. I did not pick up those questions quickly enough. However, the way this is set up is that Patrick will be able to see the questions that you asked and would actually have a chance to respond online, so stay tuned. So I would like to thank you very much for being with us tonight, and thank you for putting yourself out there. I mean, this is sometimes a thankless endeavor, but we appreciate it. I have been so impressed by everybody we talk to. I know that people are running because they love the city and they want the best for it.
I 100% agree with you. I appreciate that. I know that all of your other, you've been transparent about not being a journalist, but every time I watch these, I consider Alexandria's Leslie Stahl on bringing all this. So thank you, Virginia, for doing this. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about these issues.
Thank you, everyone, for watching us. I want to thank our producer, David McClure.
David's fabulous.
Our intern is not with us tonight. That's why I have this, but he'll be back tomorrow night. And tomorrow night at 8:30, we will be talking to Kevin Harris. Now, stay tuned tonight, and we'll be talking to John Chapman coming up soon. Thank you again, everybody.
Fabulous. Thank you all. Good job.